and welcome to, as my good friend Maticus Tatui would often say, a very special video today. I want to showcase to you, and this is becoming a common theme, but I want to showcase to you before I get into individual releases here, a brand new sub-label of Imprint films, and that is Imprint Asia. And they have sent me the first 3 releases in this line. So the first 3 spine numbers of the new East Asian kind of subsect, sub-label of Imprint Films, who are a great company in Australia who I've talked about on the channel many times before. Their releases are just really incredible from the packaging perspective, but from the extras perspective, the amount of extras they produce themselves is staggering at times. And so we're going to talk about these 3 releases, or we're going to talk about 2 of them, and my anticipation of the third, and then I'm going to do individual reviews on each of them because I think they're all deserving of it. So we're just going to ride through these first 3, and I think they've already announced the second wave of releases, which look fantastic too. And the first one here, spine number 1, we have Lost in the Stars. This is a Chinese film that just came out in 2023. It's directed by, I really don't want to butcher the name here, but Rui Kui and Shang Lu. I'm so sorry. I tried. Yeah, it's tricky. I really wish. Maybe you can do it on phones these days. You can just find the, just like, take a picture on your phone, it'll just tell you how to pronounce it phonetically or something. Anyway, Lost in the Stars. Which stars? Well, again, we'll try this, but Zhu Yilong, Nini, Janice Man, and Du Jiang. So we have these 4 characters on the front here, and they're very integral to the plot of this one, which is a crime thriller. And I watched this with Connie. I told her the plot, and she was like, "Oh yeah," and we checked it out. And Connie actually was telling me all sorts of stuff that she was noticing about like color theory in the film, which I'll get into when I review this film individually. But this is a film about a man who's on this kind of remote island resort, and he's there with his wife, and she goes missing. And the police aren't really kind of doing anything. And so he seeks out the help of a hotshot international lawyer, and she's on the island, and he asks her to help him find his wife and find out what happened, because things get really interesting when he wakes up next to a woman who claims that she is his wife, but he claims she isn't. And her side of the story is very interesting. His side of the story is very captivating. And the whole way through this film keeps you guessing. It's a very sneaky film in terms of the way that it twists and turns, and I really like that we get the nice slipcover, as you do with the normal Imprint releases. And there's a different piece of artwork on the front here that's very evocative of the film once you've seen it. I won't say too much about that, but I really love that, and how the color design of that on the front then bleeds over to the spine and to the back cover too. Now, the only extra on this is a theatrical trailer, which is a bit disappointing. It is a new film, of course, so I guess there's not too much that they can draw from. But given the nature of the film anyway, I don't feel like there's anything I have a burning desire to know about. It feels like a modern film, but it has a different feeling to it too, which I'll get into later on down the line. But there's a few bits in this where I thought it was a bit cheesy in terms of the acting, but it was different and so engaging. And ultimately what happened was we had to stop watching this the night that we were watching it. And so the whole next day we were just like in work, both of us, me and Connie, just stewing, like, what happens, you know? So we had all these theories, and I don't normally like to theorize about kind of, mystery plots like this and mystery thrillers and things. But I couldn't help myself, and I was seeing clues and everything, and I was like, oh my God, I won't say what it is, but there was an item, and I was like, is that a clue? But then, no, it can't be. And the film's playing with, I think, what you might be guessing, and I really just love that aspect of it. And I think there's some really good performances, and I just love the setting of it as well. And I love the actress who plays the lawyer. She was a really great performer. and I loved that kind of character, the lawyer character. She was really cool. Anyway, I'll leave there for Lost in the Stars. For me, in terms of like starting with Spine number one, I think it's a really interesting one to start with, because they have, you know, some licenses for more well-known Asian films, and they start with this, like a brand new film right out of the gate, and I appreciate that. Actually, I think it's a really, it's a ballsy move, but it paid off for me. I thought this was a great film. Really enjoyed it. Lost in the Stars. I'll get you a fuller summary of my thoughts in a review down the line. And the next one, which again has more of a kind of pedigree to it immediately, Spine number two, touted as Akira Kurosawa's final tale of love, directed by Kei Kumai. This is The Sea is Watching. A lovely image there on the front, and if you've seen the film, you'll know where that's from. And this is a 2002 film that is very heavily based on, I should say. It has the same cover, unlike the other one. I guess I didn't look on the inside to see if we got anything to show when it comes to that. So in this one we have the same image on the front of on the disc. That's from the front, and you have like an image from the movie. So Kurosawa died in the 90s. I forget the exact date, but if I remember correctly, he was working on a couple of different films. He had two in pre-production at various points, and he fell iller with his health. I don't know is that even a term, iller? I don't think it is. He fell more ill in his later years, and I think he had a fall, although that may have come towards the end of his life. But he was ultimately unable to physically make this film, The Sea is Watching. But he done a lot of, and there's a special feature on here that's like a featurette about the behind the scenes story of how it was originally a Kurosawa film, and you see some of his signature, you know, kind of famous painted storyboards. And seeing those after watching the film, I really felt like they paid great tribute to what he had envisioned in the storyboards in this film. There's a certain sequence where a character comes over to visit the women in the film, and I felt like the scene in the movie captures the feeling of just the storyboard painting that he did, which seems like a weird thing to say, but I really feel like it did capture that vibe and that kind of spirit. And I do feel like seeing this, I mean, it must have been really difficult for the director Kei Kumai to direct a Kurosawa script. It'd been done before, of course, and would be done again, I think. It's not quite the last, but I think they call it Kurosawa's final tale of love because it was a romance, ultimately, kind of. But also a film featuring women, which he was famously had not, or infamously, had not had many signature leading female parts. Which, thinking about his filmography, I guess is a good point, but I also think there's some strong female characters he has put in his films, and particularly Hidden Fortress, but by and large, for sure, I think that's certainly a criticism you can level at his movies. And this, I think, really shows that he would have been able to do it. Because this is all about women, about geishas working in this, like, it's not even set in one town, it's this one street. And I love films that take place in one location, and this film pretty much takes place in this one little street. There's a really shocking piece of early 2000s CGI at the beginning that made me think, oh my god, no. You know, but it was fine after that. And it's a whole little microcosm of a story about this one woman who is falls in love with one of her customers and dreams of a better life. And I loved all the characters in that. There's four kind of geishas working there, and the woman who runs the place, and an older man who frequents there. So you get to know the people as if they're kind of neighbors in a way, and there's a cozy feeling to that, despite the nature of what these women are doing, of course. And in that sense, I feel like it is kind of a romanticized vision of a geisha house, but I enjoy that you get that time. It's like a 2-hour movie, so you get the time to sit with these women and to understand how their relationship works with each other, and the kind of the older seeming of the four. She's kind of like she feels like the veteran of the household. And she's not the madam that runs the place, but she certainly has kind of tenure, I guess. Yeah, but I like how she held herself as an actress, but how she worked as a character for the rest of the other characters in the film. And towards the end, she becomes a more prominent figure in the story, more so maybe even in the main character that we follow throughout the first hour. So I like that, how it shifted a little bit in terms of who we focused on, but you got a sense of everyone. And I just thought that it was a really good character drama. And that's something I think Kurosawa maybe doesn't get credit enough for, because he tends to be associated with, and maybe rightly so, kind of sweeping films, big vistas, and impressive visuals, and, you know, insanely memorable characters and things. And you look at the golden period of his career in the 50s and 60s, and it's just classic after classic. But I think his color films and his color period is worth reassessing, because I've seen all of his color films. I haven't seen all of his black and white films, but I've seen all of his color films. I think that there's worth in all of them. And his last couple of films really step away from the kind of striking visuals and really just hone in on just character dramas. You know, Rhapsody in August, his final film, Madadaya, which feels most in line with, out of any of his films that he made, if you link it to The Sea is Watching, I think Madadaya feels like the closest cousin to it, which makes sense because it was the last film that he made. And this feels like it would have been a perfect continuation of his maturing style of slowing down and just focusing on these characters. You know, so I really like the way that this feels as almost like an epilogue or a coda or a companion piece to the end of his career. Something that he had actively worked on the pre-production of. It wasn't something that he had just written a script and stuffed it into a desk. This was something he was intending to make, and there's a nice little featurette which is on here too. So I kind of almost reviewed the whole film. There's more I want to say about it though, so I will do a separate video on this one and kind of show you some clips and stuff, because it's worth featuring again. And but yeah, The Sea is Watching. As a big Kurosawa fan, I really enjoyed getting to see this and seeing another one of the Kurosawa films that weren't, so to speak. Now the last one, Spine number 3. This is from 2003. I haven't watched this one yet, and I'm very keen to get to it. It's a Takeshi Kitano film, The Blind Swordsman Zatoichi. Now, for anyone who's followed my channel for a lengthy period of time, should surely remember the Zatoichi situation. We don't talk about it much, but it happened. I won't go into the whole story here, but I made a big video, a 6-hour video, going through all the films in the Criterion Collection box set, Zatoichi the Blind Swordsman. I love this character, originally played by Shintaro Katsu, the blind swordsman who roams, you know, feudal era Japan, I think it is. I'm not the the most brushed up on my eras of Japanese history, but you know, and maybe it isn't. Maybe it's more 1800s, perhaps. I don't know, but it's, you know, it's not modern day set for sure. And we have this character who walks around, Zatoichi, and he's blind, but he's just the best swordsman you've ever seen. And he invariably gets drawn into conflicts of local justice and, you know, protector of the peace. And he's just such a great character. Shintaro Katsu is just an amazing performer. I can't imagine anyone else in this role. But Takeshi Kitano, he decided to take on the role. And so he wrote, directed, and edited this. And I'm insanely intrigued to see how this feels as a Zatoichi film, because I watched all the 25 films in the box set, the Criterion one. I then got the Arrow Video DVD of the 26th movie that Katsu made, and is later on, after I think over a decade after the series had ended previously, with those 25 films that were made like bang da dang da dang da dang da dang da dang, and then there was like a big 10-15 year gap, and he did one more movie. So this is kind of the, you know, the 27th movie in the series, so to speak, but it's obviously like a reimagining, and so I'm very intrigued to see what Kitano did with this. So yeah, different cover there on the inside, and yeah, so this one I want to leave because I feel like I will likely have the most to say about this one because of my previous connection to the character, but also the fact that this, out of the first 3 releases in the Imprint Asia line, has the most extras. So we have an audio commentary that was recorded for this release by Sean Redmond, an archival feature out on the making of the film, crew interviews, and a theatrical trailer. So I'm going to give this one the full Blu-ray review treatment. And let me know if you've seen it and what you think of it as a film, as a Takeshi Kitano film, and as a Zatoichi film compared to Shintaro Katsu. I'd be intrigued. I feel like it's something you can do. You can honor a character like that, and you can do something different with it at the same time. I'm hoping it isn't kind of a pastiche of Katsu, but I have a feeling it's not going to be that. And maybe it might just be Zatoichi in name only. The only thing I've read about this is there's a lot of CGI blood. So I'm intrigued to see how that feels. Otherwise, I'm very excited to get to it. But based on these first 3 films in the collection, I think it's a really strong start. Hopefully I'll get the chance to cover the second wave of films that are coming very soon. But I think this is a great collection so far. And I do like the way that it stands out. As Imprint themselves, the kind of the films that they normally release, they jump about from all sorts of different genres and time periods, and fantasy films, horror films, dramas and comedies, all sorts of stuff. But I think that it's just get my head out of the way there so you can see the spines all lined up and nice. I do think the spines are identical to Imprint, and there's no identifying feature that it's Imprint Asia, so maybe that would have been something they could have done. But either way, I love the selection of a Chinese film, 2 Japanese films from different eras, a new film, a couple of films from the early 2000s, and I'm intrigued to see where this collection goes from here. So, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Look out for my in-depth review of Zatoichi. Really looking forward to diving into that one. I'll do a couple of separate ones for the other 2 as well. That's about it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.